There's a story that the Rebbe repeated many, many times. In fact, I would say that every single time that the Farbrengen and Parshas Vayera, the Rebbe mentioned it. If not every time, then 98% of the time. If you open up a Likkutei Sichos, the collection of the Rebbe's talks, and you look in Parshas Vayera, there's around 5, 6, those are the edited talks, the 5, 6, 7 different times the Rebbe discusses the story and examines it from all different angles. The story is that the Rebbe Rashab, which is the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe's wife's grandfather, so when he was 4 or 5 years old, his birthday was Chaf Cheshvan, 20th of Cheshvan. That year, his birthday was in the week of Parshas Vayera. And he went into his grandfather, the Tzemach Tzedek, was the third Lubavitcher Rebbe. He went into his grandfather in honor of his birthday to get a bracha. And he's a child of 4 or 5 years old. He was born in Tafresh Chaf Aleph. The Rebbe Rashab was born in Tafresh Chaf Aleph, which would be in 1860. And the Rebbe and his grandfather, the Tzemach Tzedek, passed away in Tafresh Chavav, which was in 1866. He was 5 and a half when his grandfather passed away. So we're talking about when he was 4 or 5 years old. And when he went in, he started crying. The young boy, the Rebbe Rashab, he started crying. And his grandfather, the Tzemach Tzedek, asked him, "Why are you crying?" He says, "I'm crying because we've learned in this week's parsha, Vayera Elav Hashem, that Hashem revealed himself to Avram. And why is it that Hashem revealed himself to Avram, and to me he hasn't revealed himself?" That's what was bothering him on his mind, to the point of crying. And the Tzemach Tzedek answered him and told him that when a Yid, at the age of 99, decides to undergo a bris milah, so he's worthy that Hashem should reveal himself to him. And the Rebbe analyzes and examines the story from many, many different angles, and asks many questions and different answers. Why last week already had Vayera Elav Hashem? Why was he only bothered by this week's? And Lach Lecha Vayera Elav Hashem? And many other, what is the meaning of the answer that Tzemach Tzedek gave him? But the Rebbe more often would focus on the question of the child and the crying of the Rebbe Rashab, more so than the answer that the Tzemach Tzedek gave him. Although the Rebbe also analyzed the answer, but the Rebbe seems very taken by the notion of a 4 or 5 year old child crying that Hashem didn't reveal himself to him. And there aren't that many stories that the Rebbe, repeated on that level. For some reason, you must say that the story spoke to the Rebbe very much. And I think it's related somewhat to what we learned today in Tanya. That many of us think, what is the battle? The battle in life is to do the mitzvah or not do the mitzvah. Should I learn Torah, not learn Torah? Say Lashon Hara, shouldn't say Lashon Hara. Do that Avera, not do that Avera. Or between good and evil. And what we learned today in Perek Tes is that really the battle is much more all-encompassing than that. The Nefesh Elokis is not just satisfied with doing a mitzvah, that's very important. It wants also that its mind should be filled with understanding of Hashem. And it wants that the heart should be filled with a love for and a yearning for Hashem. It wants complete control. And that's really a very important part of Chassidus Chabad. Now, Chabad means the mind, and the mind isn't just about the mind is supposed to influence the heart. Is that we should be serving Hashem with our entirety. And that includes very much so, and a very important component of that are our midos, our feelings, our emotions. The ava that we have for Hashem. And this is something that the Rebbe tells us that we see from the story. It's not only for people who are 40, 50, 60, people with white beards, like many of us sitting here around the table, or people with beards, or people without beards, but white hair, whatever it may be. But a child who's 4 or 5 years old also has the ability, we can give a child a chinuch of love for Hashem and desire for Hashem and yearning for Hashem, to the point that what does the child want? The child is not looking for candies and the child is not looking for toys, but the child wants Vayera Elav Hashem, that Hashem should reveal himself. to the child.